Okay. The second thing that I'm going to do is put a piece up the center. And really, I'm just kind of creating an understructure or kind of like a reinforcement for my pattern. Okay, and I'm just pulling my tape underneath the last. And then I'm just smoothing down these pieces. So that's like 1 and then 2. That's my second piece. Okay? And that's kind of my reinforcement. Okay, after that, I'm going to start taping from the back. And again, we're only going to tape the outside of this last. And you can notice that I'm just holding it with my knees. So I'm just holding it with my legs together. I'm sitting in a chair, not a stool. That would be like way high up in the air. You want to be able to like sit on a chair where your feet are going to do is take my piece of tape and I'm going to start in the center and I'm going to put one piece directly up the center of the last. I'm going to tear it off and then I'm going to smooth this down, tucking it underneath the last and on top, just kind of folding the tape over that edge and folding it under the last on this edge. All right. And are you with me? And I'm going to put another piece of tape. And I'm finding the halfway mark of the next piece. And I'm going to start working my way around. And it's okay if this gets a little slanted. So like you can see if I'm looking here, like it's not exactly straight. Going there, you can kind of start to correct. And you'll see what I mean, like by putting a piece to kind of straighten up everything. So that's more straight. And then just continuing to put your pieces on top of that. Also, I'm holding, when I do this, I'm just putting my hand through the roll of tape. So I don't have to like keep picking it up and putting it down a million times. I just always keep it on here when I'm taping a last so that I'm grabbing my tape, I'm holding it, I'm placing it where I want it to be, I'm ripping it off here, but I'm still holding my roll of tape. And then when I have to do my next one, same thing. So I'm not picking it down and picking it up 5 million times while I'm taping a last. And this helps me to move a bit faster. You want to smooth down your tape them on so you can avoid having a lot of wrinkles in your pattern. If you have some really small ones, like that's fine, but you don't want to for housekeeping reasons and also for just having nice, neat patterns. You don't want it. If you have big ones, sometimes it will mess up your patterns. So you want to kind of keep as many wrinkles out as possible. Putting each piece. This is really hard to do while like holding a camera. Like trying to stay in the area the camera can see. Okay. So we're almost there. Isabella, are you beating me? Oh, I'm still going to win. Maybe Rebekah's winning.
Oh, I don't have tape, but I'm taking notes.
Oh, okay, all right.
Because this seems a little different than how I was shown the first time, but I like this way. It seems easy.
Yeah, I think I know for a fact because I learned several different ways.
Mm-hmm.
the way that I learned, it's really like an artisanal way that Italians make shoes. So it's very like, eye. Like you look at it, it makes sense, and you're like, oh, okay, I can do that.
Right.
You just have to have someone show you. And I've learned a way that's overly technical, and I won't say there's no reason for it because there is a place for it. But when you're learning how to make shoes, you don't need extra barriers. And honestly, there's a big difference in making one-of-one handmade pairs of shoes or prototypes and making shoes that are like ready for production in a factory.
Right.
And you just don't need the level of detail at this point to wrap your heads around to try to make shoes in that way. It's not necessary. So this is a really easy way to get it done.
Are there any lasts that come to your mind immediately that you can't only last one side of it?
You really shouldn't do it on pumps. Most pumps, if they're very high, because the inside shape really gets a lot different.
Okay.
And then at that point, you could take. It's always worked for me on any flats or low shoes, low heels. It's always worked for me. Really only if it's like a really high pump.
Okay.
That inside of the ball foot area gets so different that you should take both sides.
Got it. Cool.
And just to give you like perspective, like every brand that I've ever worked for going to the factory, all of their pattern makers only tape half of the last.
Cool.
So when
Awesome.
when I saw like factories doing it, I was like, oh, okay, this is really smart.
Yeah.
It's one of those things that like you see a lot of different people make shoes in different countries and different brands and all over. You just pick up little like bits and pieces from different places, and then you kind of make it your own. Okay. Okay. So you can see there's a gap here. Where you want to mark is, so we're not worried about the gap. Keep looking here, and about here is where that gap stops. I think you can see that from I'm going to move it down closer back up. Okay, this is even a little bit better. Okay. So you can see here is like where the gap stops. And this is where the glass starts to actually contact with the table. And then if I move a little bit forward, this is the area in which the last stops contacting with the table and starts lifting up to this area, which is another gap. And what you want to do is mark in the middle of those two things. So where the gap ends, you want to mark, and moving forward, where the gap starts and it starts moving away, pulling away from the table, is where you want to mark those 2 points, and then you want to mark in the middle. Does that make sense?
Yes. What is that spot on the last called? Did you call that something?
I only know it in Italian. They just calls it the linea di calzatore, which means the line of the shoe, which is not really helpful. So we'll just call it the line of the shoe. So you have 3 marks: the line where it started, the line where it ended, and then you have the line in the middle. So with the line in the middle, you're basically going to line up this line in the middle with this line in the middle on the other side. And you're going to take your tape, put it over that line, and to this line that's in the middle. And what you're going to do is draw a line there with your pencil. So you're kind of, in essence, kind of connecting those 2 lines, those 2 center lines, so that you can get a line here coming across the middle of your last. the feather edge that's there. And then I'm going to lay it across here. And when I measure from the edge to the center line, I'm getting 7.7. So that's the measurement I'm getting when I measure between those two things, okay? And then what you're going to do is take those two, take that number, and wrap it around the toe. It gives you kind of like an anchor point, and you can pull it really tight.
I see.
Now, because this, like I'm holding this underneath with my finger, so you can pull it really tight. And I'm just matching up those two lines, and now I'm holding this whole thing, right? So it's coming across the line that I made here, and it's lining up with the line in the back here at the top. And now I'm just going to connect those two lines. So I'm going to draw a line between those two. So I have a straight line connecting the line we made on the side and the one in the back. So now we have a line